recently. So this is literally my notes from teaching the Year 12s this year. You'll learn to do the same because it's better to learn how to use TVM Solver now because it's applicable to your real life. We did an example with a particular student on Friday of last term. Whether you remember that or not, that's not my concern. We can do a couple of examples here. So can anyone remind me, what was the formula for simple interest? Did you take a note? Oh, that's a shame.
SI equals P plus R times T.
Good. Can anyone remember what was the only example of interest being calculated like that in your day-to-day life? Yes? Car finance and buying stuff from like Good Guys or JB. If you'd like a pro tip, if you can't afford the TV, don't buy it, okay? Because you're going to be paying an extra $500 for the TV when you could have just saved up and bought it straight, okay? The only thing that you should be taking a loan out for and paying interest for is a house. So, that was SI is equal to PRT. I did a lesson on compound interest, which was this formula. FV is equal to PV times by 1 plus I on K, Kn. I taught that because at year 10 you're required to be aware of this, but because I teach general maths in year 11 and year 12, and everyone, unless you're doing IB, you'll do SACE. SACE says that as soon as you do compound interest, you can use this. So I need to tick my box to say in year 10, yeah, I taught that. But from now on, if you see a question that says compound interest, you immediately just use TVM Solver. So if you want notes on how to access TVM Solver, how do you access TVM Solver? To access TVM Solver in a Texas Instruments graphics calculator, you press Apps. Can anyone see the Apps button here? Whereabouts? Tell me where to move my finger. Down? Down, yep. And? Yep, so you press that. So unlike your iPads and everything, when you open a Texas Instruments calculator, the home screen is the calculator. Okay? So this is to type out normal maths. What's the advantage of a graphics calculator? You can see all of your working. It doesn't disappear like your Apple calculator. You can see everything that you've done and you can scroll back up or down. Also, the cool thing with this is that if I wanted to say times by 3, see how it immediately put answer there? So it knows that you're talking about this number. Okay? That's why I'm encouraging you to practice using this, because if you get fast at this, you might have wasted time typing out how many digits? 6. To redo that. But if you're aware of the calculator remembering the last thing you did, you just saved some time. Okay? So to show you, how do I go to TVM Solver? Apps. Finance. Press enter. TVM Solver is the first entry. So just a forewarning, in your test, you're going to be allowed to have your device open and I'll be patrolling around. If I see anything other than that, then you got an issue because this calculator handles everything. Okay? So can you see how I've shown you in blue? How do I access TVM Solver? If you can't remember that, get that down. All this stuff is how TVM Solver works. This is an app that is looking for inputs. Is there any input here right now? Have you told it about the compound interest situation? Here it's saying there's no payments per year. There's no interest rate. There's no starting amount. If you made that 0, it would freak out. So the defaults are all zeros, 1, 1, end. So here, what do those variables mean? N is the total number of periods. That is based on PY, if PY and CY are different. If any of you, and I think there's quite a few of you that may do general maths, someone at SACE decided that PY and CY must always be the same. What does PY and CY stand for? The number of payments per year, and CY is the number of compounding periods per year. Most banks compound interest every month. So how many periods would that be if something's compounding every month? How many times does that happen in a year? 12, good. Most banks do that. Must you put money into the bank every month? Can you do it whenever the hell you want? Yes. So that's ridiculous for someone at SACE to say that they must stay the same. That is not realistic, okay? How often do people get paid? Sometimes weekly, sometimes fortnightly. So is it probably good for your budget every time you get paid to put some of it in the bank? Can you see how PY and CY are likely to be different in a realistic context? So I would rather teach it to you for real rather than just going, oh, they're always going to be the same. They're not, okay? What does I stand for? That's the interest rate. In simple interest, did we do anything with the R? Did I just write 5 for 5%, or did I convert that to something? I made it 0.05. I did not do that here. I just put the rate in as a percentage. PV is the principal or present value. It's the money that you started off with. PMT is the payment each period. You're going to whinge to me and go, why are you teaching me PMT if they don't ask you to do it in year 11? In real life, are you in a position as a young person to sit $5,000 in the bank and let it grow by compound interest? Are you that rich? No, you're earning little bits of money, and it's more realistic to put little bits of payment in at each time and then learn how it works after. So that's why I'm teaching it to you this way as well. PMT is the payment each period. FV is the final or future value. It is the principal and interest combined. PY is the number of payments per year. CY is the number of compounding periods per year. This is something that I will agree with, say, oversimplifying. Just keep it at end, okay? Just always make sure that it's on end. Having it on end and begin does make a slight difference, a couple of dollars. But for now, in your high school life in South Australia, keep it on end. Now, there's an extra thing here. Normally, you'd remember from Friday, I told you that year 12s, I get them to draw this little stick figure. If the money is moving away from them, we say it's negative. And if the money is moving towards you, what's the opposite of negative? Positive. Can you remember from Friday, how did we achieve making a number negative? Is it the take sign? Or is it the... It's the negative sign in brackets, okay? If you make something negative in this app here, using the take sign, your calculator will freak out. It'll say syntax error, which for the coders, what does that mean? If you're doing code and you get a syntax error, what does that mean? It doesn't understand what you're trying to say, okay? Because you told it take a number. You want it to be negative a number. So if this app works from the position of you. If the money is moving away from you, it's negative. If it's coming to you, it's positive. So that's why most of my year 12 for their exam, they'll have a little cheat sheet thing like this. And yeah, you need to make a negative by pressing the little negative button there. Once all the known variables are entered, you select the variable you're trying to look for. So you use little arrow buttons. You select the thing that the question was asking for. And then you press alpha enter. Because what do you see above the enter button in green?
Solve.
It says solve. How do I access the green options on the calculator? Pressing alpha. Okay? Do you need time, for the people that didn't get on Friday, do you need time to get that information in? Okay, I get nods. If you weren't nodding, then you just chill. You may talk, just don't say any names, because it's recording right now. I'll give you like 3 minutes. Go. We won't do like a real person's example now, because that's just asking for me to say their name on the video. So we'll just do the examples from my year 12. Okay? Can you get that stuff in blue for now? You guys all know what the rules are for superannuation? Before I get super. If you work over 30 hours a week. A lot of small businesses try to rip you off by doing that. So if you're over 18, you must be paid super. There needs to be something in your pay slip that says 11.5%, which it currently is now, is going into a super that you've nominated. If you're under 18, you have to work 30 hours. A lot of places try to report that. But that super is money on top of your salary. It's not part of it. Okay? So,
For the retirement.
yes. So superannuation, when you retire, you've been saving. Australia legally forces you to save up a portion of your income, but it's not coming out of your income. It's on top, right? So if you're earning $100,000 a year, 11.5%, $11,500, just on top of that should be going into your bank account each year, okay? And then the people that own the super account, they invest that to try to grow it. They invest in shares, they invest in property. So the intention is that you live off that until you... And we, in year 12, we actually do calculations with that. Let's say you saved up $1 million from superannuation. So your $1 million retirement fund would be, why is it negative? Because it's in the bank. It's earning interest. I don't know, let's say 5%. FV, I want the final value to be 0. What does that mean? I want it to be empty when my existence ends, okay? And then you can do calculations to work out, well, how long do I want it to last? How long do I plan to live for? Solve for PMT, that's how much you can withdraw every month. If you want to live it up a bit, you make PMT larger, what's going to get smaller? N, your time to do that is smaller, okay? Now, still getting those? Okay, let's do an example and I'll get my... can you get this formula down, please, here? The interest on an investment. So when you make an investment, it grows over time. But it might grow due to interest and also due to payments you're making. So you need to use this formula to work out how much interest you earned on an investment. And we'll do an example with Julia after. But just get that formula there. And then we'll practice working on this. Okay, it's long enough to get 5 words or so. Let's do Julia. Julia invests $23,000 in an account paying 3.45% per annum, compounding quarterly. How much will be in the account after 6 years? How much interest will Julia earn from the bank? So let's answer A. How do you show working out with TVM solver? You literally show all the variables and you put a star next to the thing that you're solving for. So N equals I equals PV equals PMT equals FV equals PY. All right, if I'm answering A, how much will be in the account after 6 years? Which of these variables am I solving for? Is that FV. I want to know what the final or the future value of the investment is going to reach. So I'm going to put a star next to that. N, leave it alone. Let's put in the stuff that's easy to fill in. What does this say the interest rate is? Good. Do I need to convert it using TVM solver? No, I just put it straight in, 3.45. So I'll do that on the calculator here. 3.45. She invests $23,000. So what is the starting amount of money that went into the bank? Good. What sign is that going to be for PV? That came from you, it went into the bank, so it's going to be negative. Negative 23,000. Does it say anything about Julia also making payments regularly, or is she just putting this giant chunk of money in and letting it sit? So PMT is going to be 0? Question? Okay, sorry, my bad. 3.45. So no PMT. FV is what I'm solving for, so I'll leave that alone. compounding fortnightly. So what I showed up here is that PY and CY, they should be the same unless the question says that they're different. So how many times does a quarter of a year happen? 4. So you're just going to chuck 4 in. In your SACE career, they're always going to be the same. They've told us that already. Okay? But if you're going to do more technical, you're doing your own income, be aware that they can be different. After 6 years, so the cool thing about this app is that it lets you do maths within it. So PMT 0, I'm showing my working here, negative 23,000. It's asking, what is the number of periods going to be if there's 6 years? So I can actually go do maths in here. I can go 6 times by, how many compound periods is there? 4. So I can do 6 times by 4. You don't need to work it out separately. You just did it. See how I worked it out up there? So now I can solve for, what do I press to solve for something on TVM Solver? Alpha, enter. So that's telling me, so 24, that tells me that there will be $28,264.50 in the account. That sounds like a lot of money. Whoa, that's not all the bank's interest, okay? Because did she put something in the first place? How much did she put in? 23 grand. So it's like free money, but something had to grow in the first place. So that brings us to B. You had this formula here, interest is equal to the FV. So FV was $28,264.50. Take away PV. What was the PV? How much did they put in the first place? This is a question that came up in one of my holiday shoots with the year 12s. It's like, do I make it negative 23,000? No. Because you're only putting it negative here because TVM Solver needs to understand the direction the money is going. You can't have negative money though. So what was the initial amount? PV? It was 23 grand. Were there any payments that Julia made? So PMT is going to be 0. And N, that's not going to matter because anything times by 0 is going to be what? 0. So the only thing that's going to be left in that bracket is going to be the 23,000. So interest, investment equals, what's that going to be? 23 grand, 28,264. I can do it here. If you want to quit out of the TVM Solver app, can you see quit somewhere on the calculator in blue? It's up there. How do you reckon I access the blue functions? I press second. So it's like, the way that I describe this to the year 12s is if, you all got phones, right? If you want to go back to the home screen, you press second, quit. See how it's back to the calculator? Because I don't want you turning it off and turning it on again because your working out will remain if you just quit out. So you're going to be $28,264.50 minus the 23,000. So the bank's going to be paying you $5,264.50 in interest. And you probably say that seems unrealistic. No, it's actually better now. The interest rates are a bit higher than 3.45%. Also in real life, it compounds more often than quarterly, right? What's unrealistic for you is, as young people, are you going to have that much? So it's not going to look as impressive, but start somewhere. Is that better than 0? Yeah. Okay. What's the other example? I'd like to do, can you get this example down, please? And then we'll do the example of finding n. I'll give you some time. Go a few minutes. If you are up to there, have a go at example 2. See if you can answer that. Betty. If you don't believe me that I wrote the course, when you do general maths next year and the practice tests are all Kanye West, you'll make it
Oh my god, I got scammed. Red Bull's not sure for 275 and I bought a 4-pack of Mondays, but she's been 5 times more. I lost $1.
Do you want to sit in the game, okay? You can sit on the side. All right, that example in pink will remain there because I don't need that much room. Can we try example 2? I look at the question, for how long in years and months must Betty invest 15 grand at 3.8% per annum compounding? As soon as I see compounding, I'm going to use TVM solver. Compounding half yearly for it to go to 20 grand. So, like my year 12s are practicing now, always just hammer out the variables. PV, PMT, PMT, FV, PY, CY. For how long? The question is asking you for how long. Which of these variables do you think I'm solving for if it's asking for how long I need to invest? Which is the closest of these two time? N. We're solving for N. Does it tell me what the interest rate is? 3.8. Does it tell me what she's investing in the first place?
15,000.
Good. So what am I going to put into the calculator? 15 grand or negative 15 grand? Negative 15,000. Does it say she's making any payments? No. Does it say what it's growing up to?
20.
20. What sign is it going to be?
Will this be 20,000?
Yes. It's going to grow up to that and the bank pays it out to you. So it's coming back to you like a little diagram. PY and CY, compounding half yearly. How many half years there? 2. 2, and they'll remain the same because we're not saying that there's a different regularity of payments. So if I put that into the graphics calculator, 3.8, negative 15,000, 20 grand. So Betty wants it to grow 5,000 and she wants to work out how long that's going to take at this interest rate. I solve for that. I've chosen this though because I want to think about what that N represents. 15.28 to 2 decimal points. Is that 15.28 years?
No, it's 15.28 payments. So compounding periods. So 2 of those a year, then that would be the half that. In
Good.
years.
That, because that's the thinking that you should do. You've established that your payments per year is 2. So what happens twice a year? Half years. So this is 15.28 half years. So if you're answering this question, because this is literally drawn from the Year 12 textbook, 15.28 half years. Is the question asking you to say in half years? It's asking for it in years and months. Any ideas how I'd convert this number to half years? Oh, sorry, how would I convert this half years into years? Sorry, my bad. Half the number, so divide 15.28 by 2. How do I quit? How do I go back to the home screen of my TVM solver? Yes? Second quit. 15.28 divided by 2. So right now, that is 7.64 years. We're at years right now. Do I have it in years and months yet? What does that 0.64 represent? That is 0.64 what? Years. How could I convert that 0.64, that little tail off bit of the year to months? Would I divide by 12? Would I times by 12? Times by 12. If I want to find 50% of a number, 0.5 times by the number. If I want to find that fraction of 12 months, which is how many months there are in a year, so 0.64 times by 12, 0.64 times 12, 7.68. So 7 years and what's that? How many months is that going to round to?
8 months.
8 months. Investment question. Can you please get what you need down of the example? Can you complete 7b.3 of the timeline? If you have done that, you can just twiddle your thumbs. Or you actually, because you have that understanding of TVM solving, you can finish off the timeline now.